वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। अंतुर्ग मायापुर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समावेद भक्त वृंद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदी। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Om Ajnanam Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitanena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusati Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaurabhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, as you know, yesterday we discussed that in a place called Naimisharanya, 88,000 sages were represented by Shaunak Muni, and Shaunaka is asking Sutapurani, who is very well read and expert in scrutinizingly studying all the scripture, not only understanding but also explaining. So they are asking about Krishna's incarnations. I remember when I was working in Manhattan long time back. At that time, the temple had just moved from 55th Street on 7th Avenue. It was upstairs. You had to climb a staircase and go to second floor, and that is where they had a Radha Govinda. It was a small place, but it was possible for me to visit the temple every lunch hour, and that is time the arti will go on, and the pujari used to put a tape because nobody was there as a congregation, or not that many devotees used to live because of the small place. So he used to put a tape, and I listened to the tape and I learned about Krishna's incarnations. The tape, the voice is from Srila Prabhupada's voice, and it's so melodious, and normally they don't play this particular tape as an arti, but I was very much lucky that they played this tape, and I learned about the incarnations. After 40 years, I have a chance to use that memory just to preach Srila Prabhupada's song that I heard. So the sages in Naimisharanya, they are asking 6 questions. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Hare Bol. All glories to Narada Rishi.
Hare Krishna.
So these questions that please explain us and tell us all about the incarnations of Krishna. So we will go over those incarnations as per Sutta Purani is answering to that question. So the answer to the question what are the incarnations. We will also coordinate with the song that Srila Prabhupada used to sing in order to explain incarnations of Lord Sri Krishna. Actually, it's the Lord Vishnu's expansions. Krishna actually never leaves his Golok Vrindavan. But the question was asked, and that is why, in order to satisfy their question, the answer is this. Answer is this. The Sutta Goswami says, Rupam sajagruhe matsyam chakshusho dadi samplave navyaropya mahimayam padvaivastatam manujam. This is the Sanskrit version, and Srila Prabhupada used to sing a song written by Jayadev Goswami, and it goes like this. Pralaya payodhi jale dhritvan sivedam vihita vihitra charitamakhyadam. Pralaya payodhi jale dhritvan sivedam vihita vihitra charitamakhyadam keshavadrita meena sharira jaya jagdish hare Jaya Jagdish Hare Jaya Jagdish Hare. The translation: O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a fish, all good is to you. You easily acted as a boat in the form of a giant fish, just to give protection to the Vedas, which had become immersed in the turbulent sea of devastation. So, answer is, the first incarnation was a Matsyavatar, form of a fish. God assumed a form of a fish and he incarnated. So, here it says, who have assumed the form of a fish, all glories to you. You easily acted as boat in the form of a giant fish, just to give protection to the Vedas, which had become immersed in the turbulent sea of devastation. So, the second incarnation was explained. Sura Suranam Uddim Manthatam Mandaracharam Dadre Kamarupen Pruste Kadashe Vibhu. So Srila Prabhupada explains that through his song. Kshitiraha vipultare tishtati tav pruste dharani dharana kin chakra gariste. Kshitiraha vipultare tishtati tav pruste dharani dharana kin chakra gariste. Keshavadrita kurma sharira Keshavadrita kurma sharira Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. The translation is, O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a tortoise. The second incarnation is explained, who has assumed the form of a tortoise. All glories to you. In this incarnation as a divine tortoise, the great Mandara mountain rests upon your gigantic back as a pivot for churning the ocean of milk. From holding up the huge mountain, a large scar-like depression is put in your back, which has become most glorious. So, of course, every incarnation has a meaning, a reason behind incarnation, and they are all glorious. So then the third incarnation was explained, and that is in form of a boar, Varaha. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya rasatalagatam mahim uddarishyanamupadat yagnesha saukaram vapu. So Prabhupada is explaining, Vasati dashan shikare dharani tavalagna shashini kalanka kaleva nimagna. Vasati dashan shikare dharani tavalagna shashini kalanka kaleva nimagna. Keshavadruta Shukararupa, Keshavadrita Shukararupa, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. The translation is O Keshava, O Lord of universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a boar, all glories to you. The earth, which had become immersed in the Garbho of the Kshayi ocean at the bottom of the universe, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk, like a spot upon the moon. So this is a very description of incarnation of boar. And then, if you are familiar, when you come to this temple, every time we have arti, at the end of the arti we usually sing this thing. So that incarnation is Narasimha, half man and half lion. Chaturdasham Narasimham Bibradaitendra Murjitam Dadar Karjairuram Evakam Katakrutyatha. So that was the answer in Sanskrit. But Prabhupada used to sing and explain incarnation as a half man and half lion. Tava kar kamal var nakham adbhuta shringam dalita hiranya kashipu tanu bhringam. Tava kar kamal var nakham adbhuta shringam dalita hiranya kashipu tanu bhringam. Keshavadruta Narahari Rupa Keshavadruta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. So we sing that mantra, you know, Namaste Narsimha. So this is not the whole thing, is a part of it, but it's a part of what we sing. Usually after the Aarti we sing Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Pralad Lad Daine Hiranya Kashipur Vakshahan Shiltankan Khalai Ito Nasiho Parito Nasiho Yato Yato Amitato Nasiho Bahir Nasiho Hridaya Nasiho Narsiham Gadim Sharanam Prapadyam Tavakar Kamal Vare Nakham Adbhuta Shringham Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanu Bhringam Keshavadruta Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. So here the translation of we just read about the incarnation of half man and half lion is, O Keshava, O Lord of universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of half man and half lion, all glories to you. Just as one can easily crush a wasp between one's fingernails, so in the same way the body of the wasp-like demon Hiranyakashipu has been ripped apart by the wonderful pointed nails on your beautiful lotus hands. So then we go to the next incarnation, which is a Vamana. Panchadasham Vamanam Kam Krutva Gadadvaram Balehi Padatrayam Yachimana Pratyadita Sutrispishtam. So Srila Prabhupada explained through song, Chalayasi Vikramane Balim Adbhutvaman Padanakhanir Janit Janpavan. Chalayasi Vikramane Balim Adbhutvaman Padanakhanir Janit Janpavan. Keshavadruta Vamana Rupa Keshavadruta Vamana Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. So we already went through the Narasimha incarnation. Now the next is Vaman incarnation. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Dwar Brahmana, all glories to you. O wonderful dwarf, by your massive steps you deceive King Bali, and by the Ganges water that has emanated from the nails of your lotus feet, you deliver all living beings within this world. So that was a Vaman incarnation. The next incarnation is Bhrugupati or Parshuram. Avatare Shodashme Pashyan Brahmadruho Drupan Triha Saptak Krutva Kupito Nikshatram Karon Mahim. So same thing is preached by Srila Prabhupada through his song Kshatriya Rudhir Maye Jagat Apagate Papam Snapayasi Payasi Shamit Bhavatapam Kshatriya Rudhir Maye Jagat Apagat Papam Snapayasi Payasi Shamit Bhavatapam Keshavadrita Bhrugupati Rupa Keshavadruta Bhrugupati Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. So Parshuram's avatar is explained, O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Bhrugupati Parshuram, all glories to you. At Kurukshetra, you bathed the earth in the river of blood from the bodies of the demoniac Kshatriyas that you have slain. The sins of the world are washed away by you, and because of you, people are relieved from the blazing fire of material existence. So this is very nice. Now we go to the next incarnation, which is Ramachandra. Naradevattvamapannam Surakarya Chikishraya Samudra Nigrahadini Chakre Viryana Tapparam. So here it says Vitirasi Dikshurane Dikpati Kamaneyam Dashamukhamali Balim Ramaniyam Vitarasi Dikshu Rane Dikpati Kamaneyam Dashamukhamali Balim Ramaniyam Keshavadrita Rama Sharira Keshavadrita Rama Sharira Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. So translation by Srila Prabhupada also. O Keshava, O Lord of universe, O Lord Hari, you have assumed the form of Ramachandra. All glories to you. In the battle of Lanka, you destroy the 10-headed demon Ravana and distributed his heads as a delightful offering to the presiding deities of the 10 directions. headed by Indra. This action was long desired by all of them, who were much harassed by this monster. So, talking about this particular translation, it already says that this action was long desired by all. So, in our scripture that we are reading, the sages, Mother Earth, the sun, moon, stars, planets, everywhere, Ravana captured the three worlds and he was harassing everyone, every living entity. Nobody was happy because of him. And they used to pray with folded hand that please appear on this earth as Lord Rama. And the verse goes, Ramo Rajmani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Vijaya Jaya Parabhanam Ramaya Tasmai Namah Ramat Nasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmiham Rama Chittalayam Sada Bhavatu Me Bhuram Mamudharam. What a beautiful prayer. Every living entity was crying like this and asking the Lord to incarnate and take care of Ravana. So, the next one is Balarama. Ekonaminsha vishati mein vrishnin prapya janmani Ramakrishna viti bhuvo Bhagavan arhata bharam. So the incarnation of Lord Rama, Balarama, is explained as Haladar Rupa. By the way, when we say Ram, there are three Rams in a sequence. Matsam Kurmam Varaham Cha Narasingha Cha Vamanam Ramam 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 Krishnam Buddham Kalkim Namamyaham. We say Ramam Ramam Ramam. Means Parshuram is known as a Ram also. If you simply say Ram, we know that you're talking about Parshuram. Then Ramachandra, Sitaram, that is also Ram. And Lord Balaram is also Ram. And that's why in the verse it comes Ramam, 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 three times Ramam. And they all come in a sequence. So the third Rama is Haladara. Haladara Rupa is Lord Balaram's form. So Srila Prabhupada sings, Vahasi vapusi vishuddha vasanam jaladabham halahati biti milit yamunabham. Vahasi vapusi vishuddha vasanam jaladabham halhati biti milit yamunabham. Keshavadruta haladar rupa Keshavadrita haladar rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. The translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Keshava, O Lord of Universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Balarama, the builder of the plough, all glories to you. On your brilliant white body, you wear garments the color of a fresh blue rain cloud. These garments are colored like a beautiful dark hue of the river Yamuna, who feels great fear due to the striking of your plowshare. So this is very wonderful explanation, Lord Sri Balaram. And now, very important incarnation comes. Everyone is familiar about this because that's a recent one. Tata kalo sampravrutte sammohaya surdvisham buddho namna anjana sutah kikateshu bhavishyati. So the next is Lord Buddha. And the song goes like this. Nindasya agna videra shruti jatam sadayaradaya darshit pashugatam. Nindasya vidhera shruti jatam sadayaradaya darshit pashugatam. Keshavadrita buddha sharira Keshavadrita buddha sharira Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. Translation. O Keshava, O Lord of Universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Lord Buddha, all glories to you, O Buddha, of compassionate heart. You decry the slaughtering of poor animals. Perform according to the rules of Vedic sacrifices. Very wonderful. And then finally, that incarnation that's going to come, which is explained here in this verse. Athaso yuga sandhyayam dasyu praeshu rajasu janita vishnu yashaso namna kalkir jagatpati. So Srila Prabhupada sings, Mlecha nivih nidhune kalayasi karvalam dumke tum iv kim api karalam. Mlecha nivih nidhune kalayasi karvalam dumke tum iv kim api karalam. Keshavadrita kalki sharira Keshavadrita kalki sharira Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. Translation. O Keshava, O Lord of Universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Kalki, all glories to you. You appear like a comet and carry a terrifying sword for bringing about the annihilation of wicked barbarian man at the end of the Kali Yuga. So actually only 5,000 years has passed in Kali Yuga, but this is like a prophecy that incarnation will come as in form of Kalki, and then finally Jayadev Goswami, he is recognizing all these 10 incarnations. This is known as a Dashavatar. Shri Jayadev Kalev idam muditam udaram Shrunasukadam shubhadam bhavasaram Shri Jayadev Kaveridam uditam udaram Shunasukadam shubhadam bhavasaram Keshavadruta Dashavidrupa Keshavadruta Dashavidrupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. So Jayadev Goswami finally concludes that, O Lord Krishna, I offer my obeisance unto you, who appear in the form of these 10 incarnations. In the form of Matsya, you rescue the Vedas, and as a Kurma, you bear the Mandara mountain on your back. As Varaha, you lift the earth with your tusk, and in the form of Lord Narasimha, you tear open the chest of Daitya Hiranyakashipu. In the form of Vamana, you trick the Daitya king Bali by asking him for only 3 steps of land, and then you take away the whole universe from him by expanding your steps. As Parshuram, you slay all the wicked Kshatriyas, and as Ramachandra, you conquered the Rakshasa king Ravana. In the form of Balaram, you carry a plow with which you subdue the wicked and draw towards you the river Yamuna. As Lord Buddha, you show compassion towards all the living beings suffering in this world, and at the end of the Kali Yuga, you appear as a Kalki to bewilder the Mlechas, degraded low class of man. Jayadev Goswami also adds that these are the Shavatar, only 10 of them. Actually, Lord assumed 24 incarnations. So he is naming them incarnations as Sanat Kumara, incarnation as Narad Muni, incarnation as Nar Narayan Rishi, incarnation as Kapila Deva, incarnation as Dattatreya, incarnation as Yagna Purush, incarnation as Rishabhadeva, incarnation as Prithu, incarnation as Dhanvantari, incarnation as Mohini, incarnation as Maharshi Vyas, and incarnation as Dharma, and incarnation as Manu. Out of all these incarnations, Maharshi Vedvyas is still there on this earth. Ashwasthama Balirvyaso, Hanumantaji Vibhishana, Krupa Parshuramascha, Saptate Chira Jivita. Ashwasthama, Balir, this Baliraja also, yes. Vyaso, and Krupacharya, Ashwasthama, Baliraso, Hanumanji, Vibhishana, Krupa, Parshurama, Krupacharya, Parshurama. Of course, Parshurama's team, yeah. Saptate Jivajita. So, the three personalities who are still living on this earth, like we said, Parshuram, Baliraja and Vyasdeva. They are Chiranjeevi, means they will be living long, and just like Bhishma Pitama was having benediction that he can die anytime he wants, and he's left his body according to his desire. So, the thing is that this scripture will give you so much information about everything. Now, the point I am making is that all the happenings, great and small, magnificent or minute, taking place in the universe are verily doings of Lord Sri Krishna. The universe itself is the revelation of the glories of Lord Krishna. Among all these manifestation revelations, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahapurana occupies a unique position. It explains the working of the universe and the divinity inherent in it. It expounds the laws governing human life. The substation, which is the source of the universe and the beings in it, is lucidly presented by it. Knowledge pertaining to the divine and the mundane is all contained in it. To put it in another way, the ways, the means of attaining Godhood and also of making earthly life prosperous and fruitful, all convincingly conveyed through Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The follower of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam would very soon become a yogi. For all these reasons, the carrying of the message of this great book to the prospective sadhakas is a benign work. No other service is equal to this spiritual mission. The doer of this soul emancipating service is indeed dear to the Lord, he being instrumental in the solemn act. So here is a very wonderful example given. The example is given is of a drain spout. When there is rain, and if the terrace or roof has the drains coming, drain pipes are coming, actually architecture point of view, engineer point of view, aesthetics point of view, it doesn't look that great. You see just pipe and water is jetting out. It's not pleasing to your eyes. And that's why what they do, the artists and the architects or engineers, what they do, that they put some kind of face of animal or beast, lion, tiger, sometimes bird, Garuda or peacock, something that we are familiar with. And that face is when it rains, the water is coming out from the mouth of that particular animal that they are chosen. And it looks so dramatic, so beautiful. Now, what happens? That a child may think that it's coming out from the lion's mouth, or the water is coming out from tiger's mouth. But we know that no, it is coming from up above. The clouds are raining and pouring the water like cats and dogs. The water is get together on the roof, collected on the roof, and then eventually it goes to the drain, and from the drain pipes it is coming out of the terrace, out of the roof. And it looks like it's jetting out from the mouths of the lion or tiger, and it creates such a wonderful effect. So here they say that the utterance of the Kathakar, whatever the speaker is speaking, appear to be their own. It looks like that I am speaking, I am singing, I am presenting, I am preaching, while actually they all descend from the Most High. Just like a rain is coming from above and this lion or tiger has nothing to do with that. Actually, whatever words that I am speaking is coming from Radha Govinda, from Krishna. I am just instrumental. So, this way we all should be instrumental in propagating. There is particular books which are Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. There are 18 books here, and it is not given to all to do the noble service of expounding Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Still, they have a duty by this benign book. It's our duty. If you are listening, you should not say that, well, I am home, what I can do. Yes, you can do something. These are the 12 books, and during this particular Bhagavad-saptāha we give away in like $250. It will deliver, including shipping, it will deliver to your home. So, you should take advantage of this thing. That's what it says. Now, you may say that, well, what we are going to do with the book, we cannot preach. No, you can preach. Anybody can preach. And that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a story about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was visiting all the places of pilgrimage. They will go around and walk around and have a darshan of Krishna. And he was a great staunch devotee. So, one time he went near the temple. What happens, this is the way it works, that there are few Brahmins in the community, and a religion or God or temple, that is the only source of their income. So, what happens that they sit near the steps of the temple and they spread a little cloth, and they have a Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or Bhagavad-gita or any scripture, and they keep reading. If someone comes, they expect penny, nickel, dime, whatever. Whatever they give, they just throw it in that cloth, and at the end of the day they collect and they spend their life out of their money. They don't work. This is the work that they are doing, that they are actually reading, writing, understanding the scriptures. If they meet somebody, they preach it, talk about Krishna. So, one of the person had a family and he had a child also. The child was not grown up, but about to go to like kindergarten, that age. So, the father brought the child with him and he gave the scripture like this. If you see this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, so many paintings, wonderful paintings, they are all here on the walls also, which Prabhupada call it windows of the spiritual world. Just like when you open the window and see material world, when you open these books, you see spiritual world, because every page spiritual world is mentioned. So, what happened that the father will give a book to the child and say, just go through the pictures. Child will like the pictures, he will flip the pages, he will try to understand on his own. Because it says one picture equal to 1,000 words. So, there are a lot to learn from those pictures. So, he used to go through that whole Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam looking at the paintings. And the father once in a while will look what he is looking at. and then he will tell him, this is Krishna, this is Arjuna, this is his bow, this is arrow. This name of the bow is Gandiva. You remember? Gandiva. And child will learn that way. Look at Krishna. He is wearing the peacock feather on his head, on the crown. Look at this, look at that. Every page, nice paintings. And this is how the child was being trained. This is known as a Sanskara Imprintment. Whatever child is listening is being imprinted in his brain, in his heart, in his mind, in his understanding, and he becomes religious because he has a sense of spiritual world now, that this is not the only world that is surrounded around, but there is also a spiritual world. So, what happens that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing by and he saw this little boy with a book looking at the pictures, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went right there, almost he sat there next to him, and he asked the boy, who is this? And the boy says, that's Krishna. Oh, who is this? That's Arjuna. Wow. And what is this? That's his bow, Gandiva. What is this? That's a peacock feather that Krishna is wearing over his crown. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touched by his answers. He was very proud of the father who is training this boy, the spiritual life. So, this is a true story. Sometimes some people talk about Shaktavatar, that some self-realized soul may pass on his knowledge to other person by putting his hand over his head. But that was not the idea of offering Shaktavatar, but because he was so much impressed by the boy that he extended his hand, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he puts his hand over the boy's head. Shri Chaitanya Prasadan Tad Rupasya Vinirnayam Balopi Kurte Shastram Drastva Vraj Vilasina. Shri Chaitanya Prasadena Tad Rupasya Vinirnayam Balopi Kurute Shastram Drastva Vraja Vilasina. And the writer is explaining that by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the child started reciting the scripture. He started with Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. One by verses were spoken, and rest of the Brahmana were looking what happened to this child. He doesn't go to even kindergarten, he doesn't know how to read and write. Where is this coming from? 700 verses is just chanted and finished with Om Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Parthor Dhanurdhara Tatra Shri Vijo Bhuti Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. Right? Wherever there is Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna. Sitting next to him, putting his hand over his head. Anything can happen. Shaktipat is not a very good word for him. They were the blessings. The reason it may happen is because in a previous life, the child must have learned all these scriptures. Shuchinam Śrīmadam Gehe Yoga Brashta Abhijayate. It happens in the life of everyone, right? You fall down. But whatever you did, whatever you learn, it is always with you in any of your birth. Shuchinam Śrīmadam Gehe. The next birth you will be given to a rich people who will facilitate. Child say, I want to go to yoga school. They say, okay, go ahead, we will pay the fees. Child wants to say, I'll take Sanskrit, I want to go to Harvard. Okay, we have it, right? They will take loan, but they will send the child. This kind of parents. Or he will be born just like this Brahmana was, educated, cultured man, respected Brahmana in the society. So, his children will be like that, right? No doubt about it. And what had happened that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just reminded him that, my friend, you were a devotee in a previous life. Now you have come here, but you have forgotten everything. I just remind you, right? I remind you that you were a devotee. Krishna and everything that you sing is not new for you. It's all familiar to you. And that is why it happened that in life of Hanumanji also happened the same thing. When Sita Mata was kidnapped by Ravana, at that time all the monkeys and bears and whoever wanted to help Lord Ramachandra, they were sitting and they were discussing. They had the authentic information from people like Jatayu and all that Sitaji is over there in Lanka. Only thing in between, there is this ocean. Unless you cross the ocean, there is no way you can go to Ceylon, to Lanka, and find Mother Sita. So they were discussing different plans, how to reach there, who will make it, who can swim, who can fly, who has that ability to go and fight Ravana, who has the ability to bring some news from Mother Sita. All these things they were discussing. And Hanumanji wouldn't speak even a word. The reason was that Hanumanji, when he was a child, he did some naughty mischiefs with some sages. And the sages decided to curse him. So they cursed. But then they felt, he is a child. Why did you curse him? Maybe we should do something about this curse. Let's add something to our curse so that he doesn't live whole life without all the intelligence and ability that he has. So they say, okay, you will forgetting whatever you have. But if somebody reminds you, you will be able to recollect all your memories and all your ability will enter again in your body. So Jambuvan went to Hanuman with the same purpose, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in front of that little boy and the boy started chanting Bhagavad-Gita. Same thing. That Jambuvan comes to Hanumanji And he said, Kahat Reechpati Sunu Hanumana Kachup Sadi Rahu Balwana. He says, Lord Hanuman, what is going on? Why you are so quiet? You are not saying a single word even. You are attending the meeting with Lord Ramachandra. The problem is that we have to cross this ocean. And you are not suggesting anything. Everybody had some suggestions. What's happening? Pavan Tanaya Bala Pavana Samana Bala Buddhi Vijnana Nidana. You are a son of a wind god, Vayudev. What is his strength? If the Vayudev comes and slaps the mountain will fall in the ocean. So, you are his son. Show your power, show your strength. You are equally as good as your father, your Lord of strength. Right? He's beginning to remind him little by little. Kavan jo kaaj kathin jag mahi, jo nahi hoy tat tum pahi. Tell me, Hanuman, is there anything that you cannot do? My heart says that you are able person, you can do anything. Right? Your intelligence, your strength. Asta Siddhi Navanidhike Data. Right? You have the achievements, spiritual achievements you have. Right? What are those siddhis? Anima, Mahima, Girima, Lagima, Prapti, Prakyam, Ishita, Vashita. All these siddhis, right? Eightfold achievements of mystic perfections, you have it with you. What are those? Becoming small, like a particle. If you want to be a small, like a particle, you can do that. We cannot do that, but you can do that. You are a yogi, perfect yogi. Mahima, becoming heavy. Right? When Krishna was taken by Trunavatar, or is this person is flying in the sky, and Krishna became very, very heavy, so that the demon fell down on the earth and got killed. So, those the kind of heaviness you can have it, which is a Manima Siddhi. Lagima, becoming light. Can become like a mosquito, very light. So when the demoness opened the mouth, he went, became like a mosquito, very light, took a little circle in the mouth and came out. So these are the stories and pastimes of Hanuman Dada. Girima, becoming huge. You can become like a mountain, which we will see in this particular pastimes. Prapti, obtain a desire. You see sometimes, people have pictures of Sai Baba and all that. They extend their hand in the air and apple comes, the shivling comes, shaligram comes. That is because of the yoga. Obtain things as desire, which is prapti. Then another siddhi is prakamya, empowered to fulfill any desire. Any desire that you have, it will be fulfilled because you are a perfect yogi. And then Ishita, to create something wonderful, like Lord Brahma and Lord himself is creator and he can create anything. Similarly, a yogi can create. That's Ishita, that is a particular potency coming from Lord Krishna. And then Vashita, to control elements, Vashikarana. If I am sitting here and I want that person to go out, then mentally I convey, please go out. Just like I dial by cell phone, he gets the message through the yogic current and then he goes. So these are the different siddhis, Ashta Siddhi, eightfold achievements of mystic perfection. And then best thing he says is that Jare kaho tyare karo Krishna upadesh. You are born, right? You have birth taken because you can work for the Lord. So Jamun says, Ram kaj lagi tab avatara, sunat hi bhaihu parvat akara. Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Ram. Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram. So, as soon as he reminded that you are born to serve Lord Rama, no escape. That is the reason they have given you the birth, so that you can serve Lord Rama. And when he was reminded this particular thing, that time Lord Hanuman, Bhayahu Parvat Akara, he became, by his potency, by his yogic Shakti, he became a gigantic mountain. And he pushed the earth, and the mountain went into the ocean. The mudrika, the ring that Rama had given, he puts in the mouth and he takes off. Just like a jet or some aeroplane is going, he is on his way, flying over the ocean. So this is what it is. We are not confident about our ability to preach. And that's why we always think that probably I will not be able to preach. I will not be able to preach. I won't be able to preach. But no. I remind you, through Radha Govinda, through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through Srila Prabhupada. When Prabhupada was here, for 1 year, he was giving lectures. Every single day at 8 o'clock in the morning, he will give Bhagavatam lecture. Then, because of some reason, he had to leave and go to West Coast. Now, devotees listened to the lectures, but nobody had any experience of giving any lectures. So they were all afraid. And they asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, how about the lecture? Who is going to give the lecture? Prabhupada said, you. The person who was asking a question, he was very much embarrassed. Everybody started laughing because they knew that he won't be able to give lecture. But Prabhupada said, no. Once I say you give the lecture. You don't have to really give a very professional lecture. We are not selling anything here. There are no tickets. Nobody has bought any tickets to come to the temple and listen to this Bhagavad-saptāha. Just speak your realization. Whatever you realize, you speak. And everything is my book. If nothing comes, just read my books. I have given you the Sanskrit verse. I have given the word-to-word translation. I have given you the translation as well as the purport, extensive purports I have given, and everything is there. And that's all the audience or the listeners is supposed to listen. So why worry? Why you are worried about it? And that's how we took already 2 examples, how that little boy was able to preach and sing Bhagavad-Gita, and how Lord Hanuman was able to help Lord Rama by going to Lanka. We have a Aarti going on right now, beautiful face of Lord Shri Krishna. Yesterday also at the same time we were discussing the same subject of having darshan of Shri Shri Radha Govinda. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam has a beautiful verse that we all must learn and learn how to look at Lord Shri Krishna. The verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam goes like this. Kasturi tilakam lalat patale vakshastale kaustubham nasagre varamoktikam karatale venu kare kankanam sarvange harichandanam sulalitam kanthe chamuktavali gopastri parivestito vijayate Gopal Chudamani. Tilakam. All these words are familiar. We don't have to even translate it. You saw the tilak on the face of forehead of Krishna. Lalat is his face. Vaksha sthala is his chest. And there is a kaustubha. Nasagri, at the nose he has a nose ring. Moktikam means pearls. Kar means his hand. Venu means his flute. And Kankanam means the bangles like things he is wearing. Chandanam is sandalwood. Tulsi. Kant is neck. Muktavali means neck beads and as well as garlands. Right? Gopal. His name is Gopal. Here we have the name Govinda. But it's all about Krishna and his beautiful darshan. We were also discussing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshastak yesterday. We almost started, but we never finished it. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that whatever you do, even while preaching or talking to your friends about this particular saptaha or Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or giving your opinion or attending this particular lectures, what should be your status? What kind of attitude somebody is expecting? So he says, Trunadapi shunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amani namanadena kirtaniya sada hari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord. Names, fame, forms, qualities, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia of the Lord. There is no limit to that. You can describe Sri Krishna and preach everyone if you want. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Yugayutam nimishena chakshusha pravrushayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahenam. Feeling your separation, Krishna, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more, as you are always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. So this is the spirit one should have. When you are separated, when you go away from this temple, when you walk away from this temple room, you should be missing Radha Govinda. So finally, he concludes, Ashlishya vapadaratapi nastumam adarshanan marmatam karotu va yatha tatha va viddatulam pato mat prananathastu saevana para. We know no one but Radha Govinda is our Lord, and He shall remain so, even if He handles us roughly by His embrace or makes us broken-hearted by not being present before us. He is completely free to do so, completely free to do anything and everything, for He is always our worshipable Lord unconditionally. No condition. And that's the Nishkama Karma. You don't expect any fruits out of whatever you are doing. And also, your service or devotional service should be unflinching and interrupted. Should not be interrupted. So it should be uninterrupted. You stop and go, that's no good. It should be constant service. Once you take the service, you commit yourself and finish it. Now, we were in the beginning, we were talking about the different incarnation, all that. And at that time, we came across so many incarnations, at least 24 incarnations we saw that. But the main incarnation, main expansion was Lord Narayana. Krishna is there, but He never leaves the Goloka Vrindavan, and He expands Himself in a Purusha avatar, they call it, which is Lord Narayana. And that is why it was said, we already learned, that Narayana para Veda, Narayana Angaja, Narayana para Loka, Narayana para Makhaha, Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapaha, Narayana param gnanam, Narayana para gatihi. If you have Bhagavatam, you can find these verses and read word-to-word translation and the purports. Srila Prabhupada has given very elaborate purports to all these things. It says, Eko vai Narayana asin, na brahmana ishano, napo nagni samo, neme dyo prithvi na nakshatrani na surya. In the beginning of the creation, there was only Supreme Person, Lord Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Vishnu, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no sun, no moon, no stars in the sky. And what happened then? Narayanat Brahma Jayate. From Narayana, Brahma was born. Narayanat Prajapati Prajayate. All the Prajapatis were born from Narayana. Narayanat Indro Jayate. Even the king of all the demigods, Lord Indra, was born out of him. Narayanat Ashtavasavo Jayate. 8 Vasus were born from Narayana. Narayanat Ekadashi Rudro Jayate. The 11 Rudras were born from Narayana. Narayana Dvadash Aditya Jayate. The 12 Adityas were born from Narayana. Narayana Dash Vishwadeva Jayate. 10 Vishwadevas were born from Narayana. And Narayana Dvidasha Sadhyo Jayate. Narayana, from Narayana 12 Sadhyas were born. And Narayana Sapta Pitru Jayate. 7 Pitrus were born from Narayana. So Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam not only says this, but it also gives the names of all those in details. 8 Vasus, Prithvi, Jal, Tej, Vayu, Akash. We know this: earth, water, ether, air, fire, sun, moon, stars, all that. But they are all Vasus, 8 Vasus. And so far as Rudras go, they have given 11 names. Rudra is a kind of Lord Shiva's forms. And they are Ajay Kapad, Ahirbudhanya, Veerabhadra, Girisha, Shankara, Aparajita, Hara, Ankaraka, Pinaki, Bhaga, and Shambhu. All these names, they belong to Rudras. And then there are 12 Adityas: Anshu, Dhata, Indra, Aryama, Vaivasya, Bhaga, Parjanya, Drashta, Mitra, Vishnu, Varna, and Pusha. These are the 12 Adityas. And then 10 Vishwadeva: Kratu, Daksha, Shrava, Satya, Kala, Kama, Dhuni, Kuruvana, Prabhavana, Rochamana. And then 12 Sadhya is Dharmapatni Sadhya, Dharmapatni Vishwa. Right? Dharma had 2 wives, one is Sadhya and Vishwa. They both were considered in this thing, the 12 of them. Then Manasa, Anuttama, Prana, Nara, Apana, Bhakti, Bhaya Anaga, Hans, Narayana, Vibhu, Prabhu. All these are considered as the Satyas. And then there are 7 Pitrus. Their names are Kavyavaha, Anala, Soma, Yama, Aryama, Agnishwata, Bahirshadaya. Now this information is there in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, but we don't have to remember or use it unless we really have a kind of ceremony that we go through. If we are doing some kind of karmakand, at that time these information may help. For example, last month was dedicated for the Pitrus, the forefathers. And in order to honor forefathers, it's better we know their names. Otherwise, how you are going to honor them? What do you know about forefathers or Pitrus? What do you know, how much you know about their names and their backgrounds and all that? So everything is given here, but unless you are ready to get that information, then only it makes sense. So this covers the whole planetary system, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, right from top to bottom, from bottom to top. We are at the middle, which is known as Bhurloka. Up above there is a Bhuvaloka. Then there is a Svargaloka. And then there is a Maharloka. Then Janahaloka. Then Tapahaloka. And finally, topmost planetary system is Satyaloka. So these are the planetary systems above the Mother Earth or the Earth planet. And then down below we have Atalaloka, Vitalaloka, Sutalaloka, Talatalaloka, Mahatalaloka, Rasatalaloka and Patalaloka. So this is the way, if you read 5th canto, all these planetary systems are explained. We can always go into detail, but basically this is what it is. So this word Narayana is very, very important. In Vaishnava Sampradaya, we are Vaishnava. In our Sampradaya, we get the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. But in other Sampradayas also they have all kind of different mantras. So I would request Hansrupa Prabhu to go over this Mahamantra. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bhagavad-saptāha ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Krishna Bhagavatam ki jai.
Prabhu, thank you very much. God bless you.
You keep it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Svinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Savana Kirtana Rajad Vidonoti Suritam Nastak Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Vaisaki Mukham Karoti Vachalam Bhango Manghai Degaram Yakripatamam Bade Shri Gurum Dinatanam. So of course we want to thank Nikuñja-bihārī Prabhu for this great endeavor. In the Bhagavatam it says, Manda Sumanda Matayam Manda Bhagi Upadrutaha, that people in this age of Kali, they're not very fortunate. Mostly they're unfortunate. And if that wasn't bad enough, they're also short-lived. So they have precious little time to attain the goal of human life. This atato brahma jigyas. Now is the time to understand the science of the self. So in previous yugas, this endeavor would take 2/3 of one's life. 2/3. So out of 100,000 years, 60,000 years was required in meditation. So you see that this is not possible in the age of instant gratification. People cannot wait, what to speak of 60,000 years. They cannot wait 60 minutes. If you tell someone you have to wait 60 minutes on this line, they think, no, that's too much time. Hardly anyone will wait for anything. If they cannot get something immediately, they'll go to something else. And in this way, sometimes people commit abominable acts just to satisfy themselves for this gratuitous sense pleasure. Which ultimately we see that why does a criminal steal? Because he doesn't want to work for it. He doesn't want to work for 20 years, so-called hard labor. So he thinks, let me just take what I want. So this is the nature, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So this Bhagavatam is like as brilliant as the sun. So that is the key. And Dharma projatakaita vocha paramo nirmacharanam satam, we mentioned yesterday. That this specifically to distinguish between reality and illusion. And all these instant forms of gratification, it's actually illusion. Because one has to pay for such sinful activity. He may enjoy momentarily, but whether he is caught by the agents of the state or not, he will pay a heavy price at the time of death, because that sin weighs heavy on the soul. And in the court of Yamaraj, there is one expert administrator named Chitragupta. And Chitragupta is not an ordinary secretary. He knows the detailed history of every living entity. And they have similar analogies in different religious faiths. It is not that one walks into heaven. Even the Christians, they have St. Peter at the pearly gates. And what do you think St. Peter is doing? He's checking everyone's credentials. It's not that automatically. No, he is the gatekeeper. So, and similarly, Chitragupta, he is also the gatekeeper. And there is no arguing your case that I was innocent, I was young, I was this. No. Even there's history. Of course, sometimes Chitragupta, he has, like any administrator, some latitude to act. One great sage, as an innocent child, pierced an insect with a straw. So he was cursed to suffer for this act. Not cursed, but judged. And Chitragupta gave some heavy punishment. And in the innocence of a child, there is also some concession. At least from that story we can understand. Otherwise, for the most part, everything we do is enumerated by Chitragupta, one after another. So if one commits some sinful activity, even if he thinks, I have not been caught by the agents of the state, I will be caught. But the cure for all these things, the cure for everything in the age of Kali, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasyeva, 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 Gati Anyata. And how does one come to that platform? He comes only by knowledge. He may get some mercy to come in contact with the spiritual master. But if he doesn't take up the service to the spiritual master, then that opportunity is lost. As a young man, I remember seeing Srila Prabhupada in the East Village. But he was just, at that point in my existence, he was just another one of the colorful characters in the East Village. And there were many. And we knew Allen Ginsberg, everybody knew certain people. Nobody knows who these people are now. Tully Kupferberg, the Fugs, Frank Zappa, but all these people were there and hanging out at Washington Square Park or on the Lower East Side. And Prabhupada was there as well with the Hare Krishnas chanting. So we would see them, but we wouldn't pay any attention. We just walked on by, as the song says. So it wasn't until many years later. And how? After that meeting, why? Because even if you meet a great soul, if you don't take this Lavamatra principle, is not that Lavamatra, I see this great soul and I get some benefit. There's something may be there. Sarva Sastrakoy Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Sirihoy. So this one has to take up some activity in relationship to the spiritual master, whether it's by reading his books or by executing his order. Then one gets the opportunity to realize Krishna to that extent that Krishna allows him to, according to his surrender. Yeya tamam prapadyante tam satava bhajaviham. It is not that Krishna has to naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavata. He doesn't have to reveal himself. But for someone who's taking to this process sincerely, Krishna is very eager to reveal himself. And why not? He is our dearmost friend. He is our dearmost friend. This is understood by the devotees in the beginning when they read Nectar of Devotion, that Krishna is the dearmost friend of every living entity. But we are not reciprocating. It's like if you have a friend in the material world but you ignore him or her. And they invite you to their home or they invite you to some event and you don't come, and they invite you and again you don't come. So how many more times they will invite you? No, there has to be some reciprocation. One time in Mayapur, Prabhupada was giving the lecture, and he said, "What is that word?" And if you'd heard the context of the lecture, you knew that the word was reciprocation. But Prabhupada broke it down into its actual meaning, and he said, responsive cooperation. Responsive cooperation. So this is a perfect description of the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, the aspiring devotee and Krishna. There has to be responsive cooperation. Yeya tamam prapadyante. So this is there. In the same way, when we're reading the Bhagavatam, this is a type of responsive cooperation. We're touching Krishna with our eyes and our ears. Because when we chant, we're touching Krishna with our tongue. And when we're reading, we're touching Krishna with our eyes and our ears, in one sense. So, direct contact with Krishna. That's why this Bhagavatam is worshipable. It is non-different from the Supreme Lord. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Nama Shuddha Purna Mukta Binadvan Nama Namino. So everything in relationship to Krishna is Krishna. Not a portion of Krishna, a part of Krishna, some separated energy of Krishna. No, Krishna is Krishna. Complete. Om Purnamadak Purnamidam Purnat Purna Uddachyate. So complete. So this Bhagavatam is also Krishna. You put Bhagavatam in your house, your home becomes a temple. Of course, some people, we see sometimes you go to temples, they're not very nicely kept. Prabhupada used to complain, why are these temples not clean? When we would go on parikrama, we'd see that nobody's taking care because they don't know that Krishna is there. They just think that this is stone Krishna. They don't have the eyes to see. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Valochanena. And that's the direct result. That you go to the temple, you see the temple is not kept clean, then how can you know that nobody is realizing that Krishna is there? Otherwise, how? How are you a devotee? You're not keeping Krishna's house clean, Krishna's temple clean. Cleanliness next to godliness, Prabhupada would tell us. Cleanliness next to godliness. That's a reflection of one's consciousness. So everything is there when you understand that the Bhagavatam, not different from Krishna. The representative of Krishna as his ambassador, also acting on behalf and empowered. So he has a special consideration, not an ordinary position. No one gets to take that position by artificial advancement and studies. One cannot become the pure devotee of Krishna by some academic endeavor. It is not possible. You see so many so-called scholars, they write about Vaishnava culture, this, that, the other thing, so many things. But you read it and it is just dry, it is all dry. There is no ruchi, there is no taste. Because they are not devotees. You know, they're not, Prabhupada used to say, they're not in the line. Even those in the line have to be careful not to write about Krishna in an academic manner, you know, to try to portray something contemporaneously, contextually, you know, that, you know, as some comparatively, that yes, it's the same, this religion is the same as that religion, is the same as that religion. No. This is not a religion. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat prinitam. Dharma, religion means the laws of God. And nobody knows who is God and what are His laws. They have some idea. They have this commandment or that surah. They have so many ideas. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But how to serve God? Oh, you have to help the poor, you have to dig wells, you have to open up hospitals. No. This is not religion. This is that kind of a dharma. They don't know it. They're thinking, yes, we're doing very good work. In India, it's popularized as Daridra Narayan. That Narayan has become poor. Now we can serve Narayan. The beggar in the street, he's become Narayan. They will not serve the real Narayan, but they will serve the Daridra Narayan. So this is all artificial, topsy-turvy. There is no such thing as Daridra Narayan. Narayan is the husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. How he has become Daridra. So it is all concoction. But if one reads Bhagavatam, then he has actual knowledge, because this Bhagavatam is meant for the civilized human being. They have to read, and they have to understand, and then they have to act. Why everyone is suffering in the material world? Due to lack of knowledge. And this Bhagavatam is complete knowledge. Everything is there. But one has to make the endeavor. But it is not much, just like it is not difficult to eat some nice sweet. You start eating and before you know you're finished. And then you want another one. So when you begin to read Bhagavatam, you get this, the taste is so sweet, you don't want to stop. You want to continue on and continue on. Because it is pure nectar. That analogy of the parrot whose beak pierces the skin of the mango and enhances the flavor. This phenomena, a little air comes in, it accelerates the ripening process. And so Sukadev, this whole analogy, that from the mouth of Sukadev Goswami, all these topics of Krishna have become more relishable. So we should try to understand what that means. What are these terms that someone is using? Relishable. Sounds like something you put on sandwiches. That people don't know. What does it mean? But if you begin to read the Bhagavatam, you will actually taste the nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as you progress and you read Chaitanya Charitamrita and you hear the discussions of Lord Chaitanya with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya with Ramananda Roy, you see that they're simply living to discuss these topics of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in Vrindavan. So this is not mundane, but people will not understand if they don't. So this is the opportunity. If one reads these first 9 cantos of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Srila Prabhupada said he will become self-realized. And then 10th canto, Samam Bonam. In that realized state, he can actually relish these pastimes. And that is the goal of human life. Because after all, everyone is born and everyone will die. But if one dies without having come in contact with the nectarine pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, found only in places like the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, then his entire life is spoiled. Prabhupada said his birth is no better than those of the pashu, the animal. So we should take this human form of life very seriously. We should take every opportunity to hear the Bhagavatam from the authorized versions, this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, translated by Srila Prabhupada. This is the authorized version. There are many translations, but not one of these translations previously had made a devotee. Of course, the translations in the line. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they made many devotees, but that's in the line. But in the Western world, we saw that until Srila Prabhupada came, there was no success to bring Vaishnava culture successfully and to propagate it as it's been done, so that there are millions of followers of Lord Chaitanya now. So this is unique. No one can say that this has ever been done. But we're very fortunate. We have an opportunity to associate with Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam daily. We encourage everyone to sign up for our notifications so that you can get the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class daily, 8 o'clock. Here and wherever you are, your temple is giving a class on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So whether it's in New York, or whether it's in California, or whether it's in South America, even in China, if one is fortunate and he knows the magic formula, he can tap into YouTube, because they don't have YouTube in China. It's banned. They have a system which is monitored by the state. Just imagine. But there are people who know how to spoof their IP address, not using VPN, because VPNs they don't allow in China. So you have to be very, very resourceful. And then you can actually hear. Just like in the old days in Russia, they used to mimeograph Prabhupada's books and distribute them. So by hook or crook, this philosophy is being distributed, sometimes at great risk at one's life. One devotee in China, when I was there, he told me how difficult him and his best friend, they had to spend 1 year in jail. They would not let them out. They forcibly brainwashed them. They didn't really brainwash them, but they had to make them believe that they were fully re-educated before they could be released. And that meant that they had to engage in all types of activities, abominable activities, just to prove to the authorities that yes, I'm no longer following this path. Just imagine how difficult that would be if someone forced you to eat meat or do something like that. But yes, these devotees had to go through it. And Krishna has given them great mercy, great blessings. So we can only thank such souls for their determination and perseverance against all odds, odds which we have never faced technically. You know, some of us had some adversity, but in any case, now it is 7 o'clock, and we'd like to thank everyone again. And is there any place special that they would go? I mean, it's on our Facebook page, it's on our Instagram, it's on our YouTube, and it's ISKCON NYC TV. Is that the name of our YouTube channel? ISKCON NYC TV. And there you'll get a multitude of classes from previous guests and also our residents and other activities like this Bhagavad-saptāha. So please join us when you can and tell your friends. Thank you all for tuning in. And if you have any questions or comments, just please leave them on the YouTube and we'll in the comment section, and we'll try to address them. Thank you very much. All glories to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Shivara Govinda ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Granta. Granta means book. For those who don't know, Granta means book. Grantaraj. So the king of books. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. No, don't say that. Ki jai.
Now, who should I give this?
Wow, that's a fancy one.